boys in our culture aren't taught to have a wide range of feelings. They're not taught to identify a wide range of feelings. I mean, I was very hell-bent when I had a son. Like, he had an emotional face chart in his first play area that I built. I was gonna make sure that he understood what that was.
Hi everyone, this is Christina Rahm, and I am here with my brother, Robert Christopher Rahm. I used to call him Chris, and now he goes by Robert more, which was my grandfather Merritt's name. And it always brings me back to how much I loved him and our family. Christopher comes from our dad.
Yeah.
We both have his name. My mother obviously loved him. And then I have my mom as my middle name, but I'm so super excited because he's my younger brother. I love him so much, and we have a sister named Mary Margaret who we love equally.
Yes.
I wish she was here because she may be embarrassed to be on the camera, though I don't know. But we're not naturally used to being on the camera, so my life has changed definitely over the last 5 years. And Chris's is getting ready to jump into these talks, and I wanted to really just talk to my brother, introduce him to our audience and the new people that are joining us, because we've been looking at our algorithms and we're going like every day 100,000 people are down, and it matters because we're connecting to different people that have different belief systems, different good things in their life, different bad things. And we talk a lot about, because you and I both went into psychology in different ways, and how people have different frequencies. And then people say to me all the time, or I say different energy, and they'll say to me, what do you mean different frequency or different energy? And you and I have talked about before, we kind of feel that, right, when we walk in a room. So I wanted you to kind of talk about that, what that's like, because multiple people have pointed out that we're not alike, we're different. We have a lot of similarities, but we have differences, but we both have this ability to energetically understand what's going on without someone verbally telling us. So can you explain that? Because I think that's one of the beautiful things about you. I think you have it even more than me. I think I've developed it because I've been in so many situations where it was scary or there were things happening and I had to really fine tune that. But explain to me where you got that and how it feels when you feel different people's energy or frequency, whether it's a good or bad, or in the middle, or you can sense fear, because I believe all those feelings have frequencies around them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it took me a long time to even understand that. I just was always if you always do something,
you don't even know it's it.
Exactly, until someone points it out, and then
Me too, yeah.
And that was probably in my 20s when I started really understanding that. I think it started young, because it was like a way of keeping myself safe, I think, is really what that was about. It was a way of like, I'm gonna read this room instantly to feel safe, I think is the best way I can say it. And I didn't know what I was doing, but now I can understand that I think it's a combination of lots of cues that are senses, and then it's something that's not a sense. And I don't fully understand that, but it's like visual, like paying attention to all the visual cues.
Yeah.
It's
like even someone rolling their eyes,
totally
or
how
looking
they're
away.
holding their body
Yeah.
is a huge one.
Yeah.
The tone of their voice.
Yeah.
Even smell can be like, people sometimes when they're scared, they'll have a certain smell.
I smell. I can smell when someone's sick.
Yeah,
I can
me
smell.
too. It kind of annoys me that I have that sense.
Me too. Like Clayton's like, what do you mean you smell that? I'm like, I can smell it. There's something bad in here.
Yeah. I have the same.
And I'm mad that no one else can smell it. Like, I'm like, why am I the only one here?
I'm so sensitive that everything's free and clear in our house. Like the wash is free and clear. Like I can't handle, because I smell so much.
Yeah.
And I think it's fine. It's like the fine tuning of those senses, but it's something more that I think all those things are energetic that we're talking about. Like smell is like basically it's an energy more than anything, but it's something. It's like, I think Clayton was saying something earlier that made me think, yeah, it is sort of in the gut. It's like there's like this instinct that it's like that's where it all kind of comes together.
Yeah.
And I have a sense like, it's not just like this is safe or not safe. It's much more fine-tuned at this point.
Oh yeah.
Where I start to understand like this person's not comfortable, or I'll say like one of the things that I've said a lot is, that person makes me want to, I just want to hug them and say, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Because I can feel the sadness inside them. And I'm not trying to fix it, I'm just trying to be like.
So they know you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like as we grew the company, I connected to people because I could feel when they needed a hug or they needed me just to be there. I could also feel when this isn't a good environment for me and I need to not be around this person. I've struggled with the fact that I feel that and then no one around me is feeling that. However, I am around people every once in a while that have this, and I believe it came out of just being younger, like you, and being able to read the situation and knowing how I should act during, because frequencies can change, right? Someone can be really mad or angry quickly. And so but it's so interesting because as a scientist, when I got into nanobiotechnology and bioscience engineering, and even when I worked in pharmaceutical and we were making human monoclonal antibodies, we were mixing human DNA with like murine, which is mouse DNA, or beagle DNA and different things, and then delivering something through a system that would target, and that's what vaccines do, you target a cell or an area to try to create a positive change, right? The problem is anytime, it's like a heart transplant, right? Anytime you put something in the human body that has a different frequency than your body's used to, it can reject it either then or eventually. And I think that's one of the reasons with all this stuff that happens, I have a different opinion because I know everybody's body's different. So you may have something happen to you, whether it's a vaccination or a bad event or a good event, and it impacts your body differently. So I never, like people will say to me, you never make a final decision. And the reason for that is, as a scientist or psychologist, I understand we're all so different.
Yeah.
I can't make a statement that's going to apply to everyone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I have a hard time with absolutes because even though I can make a decision, I understand both sides and I don't judge either side. And I truly don't, which makes some people really mad at me. You're lucky you live in Portland. Yeah. So people are probably more accepting of that. With what I do, people want me to make a judgment. Do you know what I mean? Like this person's completely bad. And for me, it's a spectrum of energy and you get to decide what you do with your life. And there's different periods. Like you can be around a very negative or bad frequency and it can rub off on you. And I try to talk to people 100%. About that a lot. And that's why I don't ever, like your children who I love so much, or my children, I don't really want them. It's very interesting, Chris. I don't know if I've ever told you, I don't like my kids flying anywhere. I don't want them traveling to another country. I don't like them being around people. I'm worried someone's going to hurt them, but yet look what I've done. And it's because I'm scared they're going to be around a negative energy, and I call it imprinting. So a frequency that makes my children feel differently. And I believe the more sensitive you are and the more you have this mission in life, the more those frequencies are trying to either good or bad impact you. I really want to hear what you think about that because you're a psychologist and you studied this, and I want people to hear it.
I mean, one of the things I think is really interesting that you were just saying is how sensitive a person is. Yeah. Like I used to work with teenagers a lot. A very common teenage boy that I would work with is at some point, and usually it happened like late elementary or early middle school, these kids were all really bright, like very bright, but also very sensitive. And someone would say to them, they might have a learning disability, and they'll say to them, you're not bright. And maybe not that direct, but like in all these various ways. And then they eventually start believing it, right? That's kind of the imprinting. Like your environment tells you a certain thing, you start believing it.
It impacts you.
Yeah, especially when you're sensitive, right? If I've had friends that aren't that sensitive, things seem to bounce off them a lot more. It's almost like their boundaries is less permeable. It's like a little bit more defined.
Do you think life's easier for them or harder? Because I feel like Clay, it bounces off of him. He's not, and we've talked about it. He doesn't take that personally. Yeah. And I will, if there's a bad energy or bad frequency, because I believe our cells talk to each other, I don't want to be around that person.
I'm the same way. I mean, it's interesting because like my son is pretty sensitive, and both my kids are, but I think I'm more thoughtful about Wyeth because he comes across as being very confident and having like there's an ease to life for him. But I mean, you've watched this with your own kids. Like, also when someone's sensitive, though, like things impact them in a real way that's different than a kid. Like Dessa's a little bit more, my daughter's a little bit more boundaried, and so like they don't seem to impact her as much.
Yeah.
And so I've learned, it's funny, it's made me way more thoughtful about my own sensitivity. And Jocelyn, my wife, always says, can you help explain that to Wyeth? Can you? And so I'm starting to realize this around the people that are around me, the ones that are sensitive, of trying to help them see that as not a negative thing, but as a positive.
Yeah.
But there's a way in which I think people that are sensitive need to learn how to engage this world that can be very invasive at times.
Very, very invasive. And then, I kind of, but I don't know if you and Clay talked about this, so I created Clean Slate and Clean Spirits to basically free up the frequency and the pineal gland.
Yeah, we were talking about it as like it's a channel.
Yeah.
And there's all this trash in the channel, and like that's one of the big problems.
That's why we have a huge spiritual audience, because people want to connect, and we've lost that connection. And it's interesting because I don't know if you think about this, but like when you were little, you used to love Star Wars. I was talking to Jossie about it yesterday.
I did.
And you love sci-fi, right?
Yeah, I do.
But if you really look at the sci-fi movies, there's some truth to the sci-fi.
It's weirdly so.
It's weirdly so. And I don't know if you know what the belief is from our perspective. We believe in universal law. So we believe you really have to say something or put it out there if you're planning on doing it, even negative, right, or bad. But people would think you would never put out a movie like Mission Impossible where the world was going to end, right? So as a scientist, I've been exposed, like when I went back to Harvard, for 3 years, the different projects, and it was mostly online, but sometimes in person if I was in the lab, and we dealt with everything about frequencies. Nanobiotechnology, quantum physics is frequencies. Being exposed to the factual information that you can kill someone with a frequency, right? You can make their head explode or their heart. You can, and this was never like a debatable topic in my class. It was presented, you know how you present things, like this is what we have the ability to do scientifically.
Sure.
And I gotta go back 20 years, even in pharmaceutical, when they were talking about cloning and Molly and Dolly, and then imprinting and bioprinting.
Dolly, that's right.
I remember going home to Mom and Dad and talking about that. No one understood cloning or bioprinting. And the truth is, there's not a bunch of clones out there. It's easier to like do a plastic surgery or do a mask on someone, which is very doable and is being done. Our secret services, our agencies across the world have all been engaged in different things with biologics or frequencies. But people get scared when they hear those words. And I want to say to people, these frequencies have been all around us for hundreds of years. We're not acknowledging it or talking about it because we feel safer just thinking everyone's great, no one's trying to do anything negative. And I think one of the things our mission has been is to empower people, make them feel safe, not have them feel fear, but understand we live in a world where there is, and I hate to even say evil, but there are, because I think very few people are actually that.
I agree with you.
I think it's fear. Do you know what I mean? I think there's love and there's understanding. We're all raised differently. And then fear creeps in, and doubt and guilt. I think guilt's horrible. I think all these things lead, and if you are around too much of that and your cells are continuously exposed to that and someone's not supporting you, like if you're not there for Jocelyn or she's not there for you and you're around, if you were seeing patients that were really dark, right? After a while, that may imprint on you. You have to be really careful. So how do you explain that in your mind? Because I'm your sister. I don't lie to you. I'm telling you scientifically, like we know you can put someone under a machine. If you and I went under this machine, they would know we could get out of your brain. How old were you when you had your first cat? You could say 2. What was and you may not remember that, right? But you subconsciously will. What was the name of the cat? We could pull that out. Did you love the cat? What did it feel like to you to hold that cat? We have so much of an ability inside of us we don't talk about because we're scared to acknowledge that we have like these superpowers, right? our body holds on to this imprinting, which can be negative, and this frequency, or we can develop even higher frequencies. How would you explain that to your children, for example, without scaring them? Like, I don't want to go to my children and say, there's governments, there's different people with power that can influence us negatively or hurt us. Do I think that happens, Chris, all the time? No. I think the majority of people, again, the majority of countries, I really believe this, are trying to do the right thing. I think once you reach a level of being a dictator or being someone that thinks you have all the answers and you're the one in power, you're the one that makes the right decisions, it starts going, maybe you got there through fear and by being around bad frequencies, but how do you explain that to your kids, number one, and then how do you, as a counselor, psychologist, life coach, because I think you're a lot of those things and more, how do you, if someone's reached that negative frequency, how do you bring them back to something positive? So 2 questions. How do you explain this to your children that are young? Because they need to understand to have some fear, but not too much, and to understand the reality of life. Because I feel like we're not teaching our kids. Does that make sense? Because and your kids are at a pivotal age. So how would you explain that without scaring people? Remembering that 99% of the understanding in the world happens with like an 8-year-old understanding.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm asking you. And then how do you help a person that's been exposed to so much negative frequency and energy that they've become, I think if you become paralyzed by it, it's okay, you work through it. I think if you accept it and become dark, this is where you have to help that person find. I really don't even think it's finding the light somewhere else. They have to find it inside and understand that God gave them this ability to be sovereign. God gave them this ability to make decisions.
I think when it comes to talking about this with my kids, which I have, so it's not theoretical for me. I mean, it comes down to, like, what I have done is talk about when they have a response to something or a reaction to something it's usually something that's more on the negative, like they're scared or they're anxious.
And is that usually founded? Do you know what I mean by that? Is it usually when they're scared?
A lot of it is I think this is true for lots of people. I think fear and anxiety often is the real power behind that can make us make a lot of decisions. I think is based on what we think might happen.
Yeah.
So it's not the actual event itself, because
you're right, because you're worried about what might happen.
Right.
And
so it's that future, like it could be, and there's so much tension in that, and it's a way that I think we're trying to create safety for ourselves.
Yeah.
And yet the problem is it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, it's like, if we're in anxiety and fear, of course we're going to create things based out of anxiety and fear.
And maybe even draw that to us.
Oh, I think we do, because frequencies kind of, they're like magnets. They can.
Well, even in my own life, I do it. When I get scared or get overstimulated I do get overwhelmed. Like, I just got off a phone call where they told me there was no way I could do my schedule, and I have to send it over, and they have to change everything. And I immediately became overridden with, like, disappointing people. Yeah. And so I think then I draw that to me, and so what I've learned to do, and it took me a long time, is to jump out of that and turn back into, what am I thankful for, why I'm here. But I think with kids, gosh, it's such a sensitive topic, because I believe if your kids have too much fear, when they grow up, it causes so many issues.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, I think it's such a baseline. For me, like, one of the big things is that they're even aware that they're feeling these things.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really big
That was big for me
piece.
with the kids. I used to say, what's your worst part of the day?
Yeah.
And then what's your best part? And I remember someone asking, why are you asking your children what the worst part is? And I said, because if I don't ask them, I can't work through that with them. If I only say to Duquesne and Preston, what's your best part of your day? Right. And they would tell you this if you ask them. then I'm only hearing a good part. I'm not hearing the true story of what my kids are dealing with. So I think kids identifying what hurts them and having a parent that will talk through that with them without judgment, is really needed.
I think also, like, even with client or people we're working with, but also with kids, it's like what I've realized is that how I'm dealing with things is very important. Meaning, like, that I'm honest with how I'm dealing with them, even when I'm not dealing with them well.
Because kids know it anyway, right?
Yeah, they do, and I think we all kind of know that. Like, I think some of us haven't really learned to pay attention to it, but we feel it.
Yeah.
Somewhere inside. But yeah, kids are really. I think as we grow, we create more defenses or more boundaries, so we maybe aren't aware of what we feel. But kids, they absorb things, and so it's like helping them see, like, when they're experiencing fear, let's say, to say, like, okay, what are you feeling right now? And they'll dance around it, but usually they'll get to that place. But also, like, one of the things I learned to do was say, where do you feel it in your body? Like, because then it becomes the problem with, like, frequency or energy is that
what do they say to you? Where do you feel it? Because I know you worked with all those kids, the boys. Like
the big thing with boys is to help them understand where it is in their body.
Where?
Because, like, you'll feel like a heightened sensation somewhere in your body.
Yeah.
And it's best, right, to do it with them in the moment, because it's difficult for lots of people to say that when they're not in it, because then it's sort of theoretical and it's like, I don't know. And
that's so interesting, because Clay always says to me, how does that feel? Like, one time we were talking about empathy.
Yeah.
And he goes, because our upbringings bring us to where we are, right? So Clay was kind of taught not to experience that, or to try to cut that out. And a lot of very successful business people are like that. I don't have that. Do you know what I mean? And I can tell you, but that's one of the reasons our growth has been so fast, because we're so different, right? So I love the fact, like, we launched our company the month COVID hit, and I was like, no way are we launching. We won't get paper. We're not doing this, but he did it anyway.
Well, yeah, there were so many unknowns.
There were so many unknowns. We couldn't even get packaging, and we had to call in a lot of favors for people that, thank goodness I had worked all over the world, and he had worked a lot in different countries, so we were able to navigate that. But Clay will ask me, and I love this, he'll say, how does that feel to you? Like, what does it feel when someone's bad? Or what does it feel when you feel like someone's sad? How does that feel? And I can identify that in my stomach, and it's really interesting, in my throat.
Yeah.
I feel this like I can't talk. And sometimes I'll cry. And then it's like by myself. Do you know what I mean? Because I can feel such an intense either pain or hurt or anger or bitter. I can feel it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's connected. This is getting in an area that it's more complicated for me to talk about, but I do think it's sort of in our energetic body. It's not literally in my stomach. I think it's like the energetic body.
But everyone feels it different, because they don't know how to identify it.
Exactly.
That's why I wonder what most boys say.
Well, most boys say, the great thing about, it's easier to talk about feelings in some ways, or emotions, than it is to talk about, like, the energetics of it. So that's a little more complicated. But boys in our culture aren't taught to have a wide range of feelings. They're not taught to identify a wide range of feelings. I mean, I was very hell-bent when I had a son. Like, he had an emotional face chart in his first play area that I built. Like, I was gonna make sure that he understood what that was. But it's common not to, and I think it's, what I've really realized is, like, boys in particular are taught in various ways to understand their body. In some ways, it's like, especially because of sports, I think it's more socially...
Yeah, because they're kinesthetic.
Right, it's most socially acceptable to do that. But we're also taught to disconnect our body, like to move through pain, right? Like, pain happens.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to feel...
Just keep going, you know what I mean?
And you're not supposed to cry. Yeah.
That being said, I think when I know when I worked with boys in particular, girls is so much easier. Culturally speaking, you're taught to feel a wider range of emotions, and it's talked about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
it's okay.
Right, it's okay, and you're learning from other women, essentially.
I want you to know this because of the Elysium that we're doing here with women and female empowerment. We do a lot. I don't know if you know this. I do a lot with women. It's not accepted for like lieutenant governors, CEOs as women to have emotion.
Right.
The belief system is, why would you cry? Right. And I blow that out of the water because I'm like you. I'm sorry. It's okay if I cry. It's okay if I'm the CEO and I have feelings. And if people want to criticize me, then it's okay. But I identify, so this transition for me has made me identify with men more, thinking this has got to be hard. Like I have 3 sons, and a daughter. And I would say Merritt's actually a lot like Dessa. Merritt does set her boundaries. She had to with 3 brothers, and she goes to her room. She'd rather be by herself. She needs to reflect. And I'm proud of her for that.
Yeah, I feel the same.
I'm so proud of Merritt. I want a strong daughter like that. And when people are like, where's Merritt? Why isn't Merritt there? I'm like, she doesn't need to be here. Merritt will be here when she wants to be here.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a judgment because people are used to girls doing exactly what you tell them to do. Whereas your daughter and my daughter are not actually a person. They set that boundary.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting, Chris, when I got to this point, and I've been told by so many women and men, you shouldn't cry. You're in a position right now where you shouldn't feel this. So I've learned to identify, and I feel bad for men because I think people worry about women a lot, and I think that's great because women have gone through a lot. But I also think I want men to feel empowered, but I also want men to be able to cry.
Well, as you're talking, the thing that I think about is vulnerability, because we're taught not to have vulnerability, at least out in the open.
Yeah.
And my piece on that is vulnerability is what makes us feel connected. Because it lowering of defenses, and now we get to connect. Just talking about the frequency and energetic level, it's like now I'm opening my energetic body, or whatever you want to say, to you by being vulnerable. I learned that very much from being a therapist, because what I thought that I had to emulate someone else when I first got into it, that I had to know everything I was doing, to like basically be in control, right? And what I realized, actually Jocelyn really helped me with this. She was like, that's not who you are. Like who you are and what your strengths are you know yourself, and when you're vulnerable about what you're experiencing, you're not telling someone else what they're experiencing. It allows them then to experience themselves. And that, to me, that is a big piece that, like, as men, and I think a lot of women too, like, we don't make it okay, like, especially once you get into a place of power, like, you can't show vulnerability because it's like we idolize people that like have it all together.
But no one has it all together.
Exactly. And I think that this separation between people is often because we pretend, and like I think the phone or social media is like a big piece of this sometimes. It can be used in all these different ways, but when it's used in a way to only show we have it all together, then there's this separating effect that it has.
I agree. I even think like with our social media, as it grew, you had to have a certain appearance. And I've told you, I have to, you know me, you grew up with me. You know I didn't want to go to prom. I didn't want to go to homecoming. I didn't want to wear a dress. I was a tomboy. We were outside constantly. So of course I don't want to put on a red Oscar de la Renta dress and heels. Do you know what I mean? Like, people don't, I wish they knew me. Like, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to have, I do my hair, just so everyone knows, about every 10 days. They blow it out, so I don't have to do it for another 10 days, and I get to work while they're doing it. I don't like having to put on makeup every day. I don't like, now I was prepared by that for Grandma Boyd and Mom and like Mary, do you know what I mean? I'm very thankful for that now, because I was always there like, you don't look right, you know, but I'm glad because now I've been able to conform. But the image on social media is not the real image. Like, it may look like I have a dress on. 99% of the time we're doing a fundraiser for women or children or animals. But it's all an illusion. Like, you know this, my life's not perfect. I don't talk about the fact that I have skin cancer or I have ulcerative colitis a lot, or that I'm experiencing pain, right? Because people think if you are a psychologist or a counselor or you're in wellness, you should have it all together. People say to me all the time, What do you mean, Clayton, that you're arguing with Clayton? Or what do you mean you're sick? Wait, and then my comment is, that's our journey here. Like, our bodies are imperfect. And I believe my frequency goes up when I go through a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm not happy while I'm going through it, right?
Sure.
So, but I have to tell you, if I ask you a question like, what do you do when this person has negative frequency? I've changed a lot. I used to try, and I know you know me, save them, help them, and I would throw my life into it. I am no longer interested in that. I realize that every day is shorter, and I can't have someone that's not a good, if they're not on a mission to make humanity better and to make others better, and just ego and self-gain and power are there, I'm not interested. I may have to be at a meeting or have to work with those people, but if I'm really honest, I don't want to sit down and have a discussion. And I don't feel like, as a human, I can change them, but I know other people need to. So are you able to work with people like that and disconnect, or what do you do?
Well, I was describing this to someone the other day when I first started working with people individually.
Yeah.
I worked with someone that had severe mental health issues, and I think I wouldn't actually even, at the time, that's how I would categorize it. Now I would say that they were just deeply in fear.
Yeah.
Or disconnected from self.
Were they mean? Or dark?
Dark is what I would say. And
that's how I describe it. I feel
it's like
dark.
It's like a sensation of I can almost see it.
I can too. Yeah.
And my supervisor at the time said, when you work with someone like this, she's like, this is really positive. Again, she framed it in a way in which I could learn from it. And because now you get to learn this piece. And it was like this idea of, and I learned to do this, like where I would, at least 5 minutes before I would work with this person, I would stop, I would center myself, and then I would literally create inside me, and I see things visually inside, that's how I am, a permeable boundary that I got to decide what moved through and not.
Yeah.
And that made all the difference in the world for me. And then I could work with the person after that.
Have you ever had patients, because I have, that come in and you feel this incredible darkness where the hair on your arms stand up and you know it's kind of an alert. I feel that. Like I have had patients when I was a psychologist tell me that God was telling them to kill me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember.
And I could tell they were honest with me.
Yeah.
And I had to say, I think we have to end the session because I'm not going to sit here. And then of course they become increasingly angry. And I don't know how much work you've done with schizophrenics, but you know, I did at Mobile Mental Health Center. And I think that's probably, like, I worked with prostitutes and I actually enjoyed it. They were really wonderful women that just were in an occupation to try to usually have money or help their children. I mean that. And then a lot of them had a hard life. But when it would come to like people that were homicidal, because when people come in and they're suicidal, they might be homicidal if they're schizophrenic. Like, you have to be very careful. And there were schizophrenics I worked with where I didn't feel that. Do you know what I mean? But there was a level where I would feel it and I would think, this is not a good situation for me. You
know, on that front, I think, like, I have been around.
Have you been around
Yes,
that?
I've definitely been around people like that. And I'm with you. I basically am like, at this point in my life, I'm like, I don't choose to put myself in that situation.
Yeah.
When it's at that level,
because
that's how I am. I think it takes a community to help someone through that. And
I agree with you. A lot of people. You talked about that the other day. It takes a lot of people working together.
It does. And like, I remember when I was in grad school, them talking about this very specific issue of like schizophrenic.
Yeah.
And
because you know their brain chemical waves are different.
Like and if you look at that if you look at that same person and the characteristics of that person in a place like India, they don't look at it that way.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
They basically look at it as this person is, you could almost say, like a channel for spirit, and they're lost in another dimension and they've lost their ground.
Well, you're supposed to actually in India. I don't know if you, so when when you go to India, like with transvestites and different things like that, when they're kids or you have a mental illness, they send you somewhere to live in this village. I don't know if you know that, like families can send their kids when they're little, especially boys. This is interesting, especially boys, right? But they feel like they're connected to the spirit. And so they come to your car and they ask for money. You're supposed to always give them money. Well, one time I didn't because I was so nervous and there were so many people in the car. And they screamed they were going to curse me, right? They were going to talk to God because the belief is they have this stronger connection, which I think is so interesting because we don't have that in the United States.
Yeah, well, we don't have the community that can hold that, is what I would say. Like, we don't have the environment that can, like, if you've lost your ground because you are, like, almost like you've lost this reality, this human reality, and you're in some other, and so you get lost. So you're like here, you're not there, you're somewhere else. And it takes a community to be the ground to help you find your ground again. We don't tend, in our culture, America, United States, we've become more disconnected from our tribe, is almost how I would say it. And then it's hard to recreate that. It's difficult to move to a city and then truly feel like you have a your new version of a family that can hold you through a divorce, that can hold you through someone dying, that can hold you. It's like a container.
Through cancer. I mean, you know what I mean? That can be, I'm talking anything.
Oh my gosh.
You want a group to hold you through it.
Yeah, and we're all going through it all the time.
All of us.
I don't think anyone gets to go through this life and not have suffering. I don't think that's possible.
That's why when people ask me all the time on podcasts, or they'll say, you know, you've been sick, you've had kids that are sick, you've had families. My honest response is, haven't we all?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm honest, like we all have. Mine's not any more pain than someone else. I do think, though, when you open your heart to people and your life, you are opening yourself to experience all of it.